September 11, 2024, Lexington, Kentucky. Two major stars missing from AEW Dynamite programming tonight, but that didn't affect the show whatsoever. You got your main champion not on the card due to the events that happened at All Out. Your commentators on the evening, Excalibur, Taz, Tony Schiavone. Let's get in. I'm your host, Bryan, the Hype Ballard, and we're going to talk about what Jon Moxley had to say about his turn and his betrayal of the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson. The show opens up with the AEW All Out promo from Jon Moxley in the wake of it. He tells Bryan Danielson that he doesn't have the stomach for this, and that 2 years ago that they made a commitment to build something real and tangible. And that was last year and years and long after many times an idea that couldn't be destroyed. Not for money, not for recognition, but it wasn't worth doing. He looks around. He sees egos all out of control everywhere on AEW programming, all over the place. He can't take it anymore. Blood alone, the wheels of history, and their mentor, William Regal, called Bryan Danielson the perfect wrestler. He was right. He calls him the Lordship. He was his favorite. Not actually mentioned William Regal by name, of course. But he saw himself in Moxley and said that men like him are what they are, and they can't pretend otherwise. He's no villain, and he's no hero, but he knows why God put him there. He's the one true king of these lands. Diplomacy has failed, and today he chooses war. Very, very nice quote right there. Next, we see Darby Allin coming in on a skateboard into the arena. We know Jon Moxley's been looking for him. Will these two align tonight? Will they get face to face? You bet they will. Tony Schiavone in the ring next, introducing Christian Cage and the Patriarchy. He talks about Christian's guaranteed contract for a title match whenever, wherever. Cage scolds the crowd before beginning. First thing, he mentions his son, Nick Wayne, that word on the street, and talks a little bit about that. Then he talks about the fans chanting Luchasaurus, and it says his name is Killswitch. Ultimately, though, we do get up next Renee Paquette interviewing Don Callis and Will Ospreay backstage. They agree to team up in the Casino Gauntlet Battle Royal next, coming up at the end of the night with Kyle Fletcher. Callis, it's a great idea. The odd ends, the winner getting a World Tag Team Championship. If you can't have your world champion on the program, why not? Why not, I say, feature the tag team wrestling, and I think that's a good move tonight. Up next, we get the Scapegoat, Jack Perry versus Lio Rush. So a lot of opening segments explaining some aftermath of AEW All Out. But then we get Jack Perry and Lio Rush for the AEW TNT Championship. Perry putting boots to Rush at the bell, drops his jacket on the camera and whips him into the corner. Lio ducks under, lighting him up with some punches, a big chop. I forget sometimes Lio Rush and how good he is in the ring. I think I was tainted by his days of Lashley. Maybe we'll get those days again if Bobby Lashley chooses to become Elite. Ultimately, we get a Spanish fly, but the Scapegoat kicks out. We get a sidestep, long darts. Lio ducks into the turnbuckles. A dragon suplex connects, jockeying for position. We get a poison Frankensteiner, Arabian press sidestep. Jack blasts him with the knee, charging in. And Jack Perry wins by pinfall in this one with a running knee, retaining the TNT Championship. Backstage, we get an interview of Jack Perry, and he says people like him are crucified in his life so they can be worshipped in the next. And he gets on the Scapegoat bus and drives off. Paquette interviewing Morgan, busy tonight backstage, as she gets Adam Hangman Page. He says if he found 1,000 houses that Shane Swerve Strickland called home, he would have burned 1,000 homes down. And he meant every word he said and every drop of blood that he stole from him. People saw it in person. Make no mistake that he meant it. And now he speaks to everyone. If you get in his way, if you stood between them and try to protect Swerve from him, he will find you and he will hurt you. Hangman attacks a random guy on his way out down top flight before turning on the Dark Order And then ultimately, Evil Uno says he doesn't even know who he is anymore, playing a little history there. Adam turns to see Jeff Jarrett then standing there. Jarrett says his family has been in business for 3 generations, and he's seen plenty of men walk the dark path, but it always ends the same way, in shame and regret. And he says that Hangman will regret the day he lays his hands on Karen Jarrett. Hangman attacks Double J and throws him into a pile of chairs. And then ultimately, building up to another feud here. At this point, we do get a little bit further in the show. We get Sammy Guevara versus Ricochet. We get a nice little matchup here with a little bit of back and forth. We get a fast-paced in and out. Guevara wants a flash pin, but both guys go for kicks on their legs and are briefly entangled. Sammy to the floor. Ricochet a corkscrew dive. They brawl all the way through. We get a moonsault off the tunnel to the stage that sends us to a break. We come back. Later on, we're fighting. We get fired up. We run in a shooting star press, but not enough. 1 and a 2. Guevara takes some kicks. Gets a schoolboy for a 1 and a 2. Kick to the midsection. Ricochet catches him in a fireman's carry. Ultimately, going back and forth and ending this one, Ricochet wins by pinfall with the vertigo. Post-match, we get the Beast Mordos that spears Ricochet. Guevara grabs a chair, runs Mordos off. Sammy helps Ricochet to his feet, raises his hand. And Darby Allin now getting ready to make his entrance to get on the mic. He says somebody's been looking for him, and he's here. And now we get Marina Shafir, Jon Moxley. They come down to the ring, and they're ready for their interaction that we've been taunting for the last couple weeks. He says they don't act like superstars. He says they come from nothing and refuse to go back to it. He doesn't take any of this for granted, which is why he wrestles the way he does, says Allin. AEW gives him everything, and he wants to tell John a story that he's never told anyone. His first year in wrestling, he was looking for someone to look to. Every one of them failed him, showed him dignity, could be bought, and your soul could be sold for $1. But not Jon Moxley. He wanted to be just like him, and to this day, Mox will wrestle in a high school gym because he loves the business. Where did they first meet? It was in a gym on the indies, and he was nervous that day he'd get to wrestle his hero, and he lost the match, but gained confidence that he belonged in the ring with his hero. There's not a lot of people you can consider your family, but when you find one, you hold on to them. And what did John do to Bryan Danielson? He would never do something like that to Sting. I like the dynamic here. I like the idea that we're creating a dynamic of Jon Moxley to Bryan Danielson as Darby Allin is to Sting. Very, very good comparison there, and showing that both of these guys have guys they consider family in the business. I thought it was a strong promo by Darby Allin to get this feud going between these two. Saying he wouldn't do something like with Sting was a very, very good point here. And he doesn't have time to explain, but Moxley responds and says he needs Darby to give him a title shot. A title shot that he has, and he says that he can cash in any time, and he needs to give it to him. Allin asks if he's stupid or if he's been drinking again. Nice play there, because he sounded like everybody he hates in the back. Self-entitled, and he's not just going to give it to him. So he wants it so bad to do something about it. Moxley says if he wants it to earn it, he will earn it at Grand Slam on September 25th. Title shot on the line. And he'll teach him another lesson, show him where he stands on the food chain, which will always be far below him. Allin will never be world champion, and he believes in him and has his back, and he doesn't like to say it to him, but trust him, and he knows that he has no idea what's going on. Interesting play. We got a little bit of a story in the background with Mox and the Blackpool Combat Club here, but we also got a little bit of a building of Darby Allin. Will they, won't they make him a world championship contender? If you guys remember, we had the Fatal 4-Way match, the Four Pillars match, a few years ago of AEW at AEW's spring pay-per-view. And we had that matchup with Guevara and MJF. And ultimately, that Four Pillars match was a planting of a seed for Darby Allin, which could be growing in front of our very eyes. Ultimately then, John holds Shafir back, bows out, and Darby's on his way out of the ring. Very good segment, very strong booking. I'm looking forward to Grand Slam in the future. Next, we got Mariah May getting into it with Queen Aminata. If Queen Aminata wins, she gets an AEW Women's World Championship match. May with the trip. I'm not a sidesteps drop leg. Looking for a quick pinfall. Mariah turns to a favor stalemate. Ultimately, we get a little bit back and forth here. We get Aminata later on in the corner, blocking Tierra's kick to set up flip. A German suplex. May comes back with a vicious DDT, but just not enough. Double stop with a drop kick. Mariah off the ropes. Knee connects. Mariah May wins by pinfall in this one with the Storm Zero, one of her favorite mentor moves. Mariah May gets on the mic and says that she still hasn't had her championship celebration. We got to celebrate tonight. But on something, someone is missing. She calls out Mina Shakirwa and asks her to please come back. Up next, we get the Young Bucks cutting a promo backstage about the world's greatest tag team division in the business. And as it turns out, this is going to be your main event. We're going to get, ultimately, after that, we get the Team Casino Gauntlet match. Real quick, we get a very quick match with the Learning Tree, winning by pinfall with a 1-foot pin from Chris Jericho on Jack Jameson. Jericho gets on the mic, talks about Orange Cassidy, and we get a little bit of a feud planting there. Go on to the Tag Team Casino Gauntlet match. Before that, we get Nigel McGuinness in the ring. He wants a championship match against Bryan Danielson at Grand Slam. So it looks like that's going to be set. And I like this. I like Nigel McGuinness versus Bryan Danielson. We've been kind of clamoring for that for weeks now. So the final countdown is, clock is ticking on this one. Now we get to the casino match. We get the Young Bucks making it up to the entrance, just sitting at the entrance watching the teams come by. We get FTR, Wheeler and Hardwood versus Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay versus MXM Collection, Mansoor and Mason and Madden. The Acclaimed, Anthony Bowens and Max Caster. The Righteous, Top Flight, Undisputed Kingdom, and AEW World Tag Team Championship #1 contender match is on its way. The teams FTR and Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay start the matchup, the Throw Together team from earlier in the night. We get a little bit of back and forth. We get a Michinoku driver at one point with Kyle hitting that. Will with a moonsault off his back. Dax kicks out. And these two look like they're teaming up pretty good here. We get some side. The Righteous enter third in the matchup. We get Vincent with a side Russian leg sweep on Fletcher. Wheeler passes Dutch into the corner. Uppercut. Stacking him up. Dutch cuts him off in a boss man slam. Ultimately then, the ticker ticks again, and we get Undisputed Kingdom entering the match. Undisputed Kingdom has lost their way. We had Adam Cole, baby, leading the charge deep into, at this point last year in one of the main event feuds of AEW. My, how the Kingdom has crumbled 1 year later. Death Valley driver into a run knee on Ospreay. We go to break. Come back, we're getting the fifth, the Acclaimed entering the match. We're working Ospreay with uppercuts. Hathaway clapping. Bowens whips Bennett into the corner. The Acclaimed work him over. Later on, we get MXM Collection into the 6th spot in the matchup. They come in. They do some posing. We get Top Flight entering with the 7th. Top Flight cleaning house with a big tornado DDT on Dutch. Ospreay and Fletcher in with them. Kyle and Darius fade away. And Dante squares up with Will. Ultimately, we go a little bit further. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Top Flight moving ahead. And the Outrunners enter the match at the high energy spot with the 8th seed. The Outrunners. This is a tag team I can get behind. I'm a little bit new into getting honed in on the Outrunners. Straight out of the 80s, straight out of when wrestling was great. And I'm telling you what, they're here to crank up the 80s and crank up the jet skis. As they come, they fire up the crowd. They have their way. They do a little bit of a bro 5 and elbow drop. And the countdown comes, and Grizzled Young Veterans come out in 9th. And ultimately, we get back and forth in this matchup. A Hurricane Rana, but not enough. An enziguri from the apron. Martin on top with a frog splash. The knees are up. We get a hidden blade. Fletcher has them. Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay win by pinfall with a crucifix pin from Fletcher on Dante Martin to become the #1 AEW World Tag Team Championship contender. The Young Bucks confront their challengers. We get a little bit of hype. And that's the end of AEW Dynamite. Let's get into the final thoughts. And I want to say thank you guys. If you like wrestling, you like AEW, support it. Hit that like button. Helps you, helps me. We got a lot of great stuff over at the fans of ProWrestling.com. My fans, partners at the Wrestling Fans Insight. We always try to tag in, tag out. Let's talk about AEW Dynamite and our final thoughts. AEW was able to strongly book a Dynamite without the world champion, Bryan Danielson, and without Swerve Strickland. So two guys that are the now faces of the company. And it was a night of villains on the rise as Hangman Adam Page made his way and kind of dominated. And then we even got a little bit of the Elite. And we got Jon Moxley and his new faction ultimately taking stage and leading Dynamite very strong. But what do you do when you don't have an AEW World Champion to feature? Well, you elevate other titles into the main event slot, and that was the Casino Gauntlet Battle Royal or Gauntlet match for the World Tag Team Championships, elevating it, getting us excited now for Grand Slam with Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher. It's a bold move putting those two together, but I like it, and it worked out well. Swerve and Bryan's absence will make the heart grow fonder. How can I miss you if you don't go away? Speaking of going away, I'm going to head out. Thank you guys, and good night. Game over.